Most people live their lives trapped in intention, believing that wanting something deeply is enough to eventually receive it. They tell themselves that because they plan, think, or talk about change, progress is happening. But intention without movement is nothing more than mental comfort. It creates the illusion of growth while keeping results completely unchanged. The world does not respond to what you mean to do. It responds only to what you actually do. Intention feels productive because it requires no risk. You can intend to start a business, intend to change your habits, intend to become disciplined, all without facing rejection, failure, or discomfort. Action, on the other hand, demands exposure. It demands that you step into uncertainty and accept the possibility of mistakes. This is why so many people stay stuck in intention. It feels safe, but safety never produces transformation. Results are always the byproduct of behavior, never of desire. You can desire success, wealth, confidence, or growth with all your heart, but desire alone carries no weight in the real world. Reality measures effort and motion. What you repeatedly do shapes outcomes, not what you repeatedly think about doing. Action is the currency that reality accepts. Intention is invisible, but action leaves evidence. Evidence is what builds credibility with yourself and with life. Every time you take action, you create proof that you are capable of movement, progress, and execution. Without that proof, self-belief remains fragile and easily shaken. Action strengthens identity by turning possibility into experience. People often wait for motivation before acting, not realizing that motivation is usually a consequence of action, not its cause. When you move, energy follows. When you delay, resistance grows heavier. Action breaks inertia, while intention feeds stagnation. Momentum is created through movement, never through planning alone. There is no reward system in life for good intentions. No one is paid for potential. No one is promoted for what they almost did. Outcomes are reserved for those who execute, even imperfectly. Imperfect action always beats perfect intention because it produces feedback, learning, and progress. Intention keeps people emotionally comfortable but practically powerless. Action may feel uncomfortable, but it produces control. When you act, you shift from hoping things will change to making change inevitable. You stop being a spectator of your own life and become an active participant in shaping it. Every successful outcome is built on a trail of small actions taken consistently over time. None of those actions required perfect clarity, only commitment to move forward. Waiting until everything makes sense delays growth. Action creates clarity by revealing what works and what does not through experience. The gap between where most people are and where they want to be is not knowledge, opportunity, or talent. It is execution. The ability to act when it would be easier to delay separates those who achieve from those who explain. Action forces growth, while intention allows comfort to remain in control. When you understand that results are always earned through action, excuses lose their power. You stop negotiating with circumstances and start focusing on behavior. You realize that every action taken is a vote for the life you want, and every delay is a vote for the life you are trying to escape. Most people believe they need clarity before they move, but clarity is not a starting point, it is a destination reached through action. Waiting to feel certain keeps people frozen in place, endlessly thinking instead of progressing. Movement reveals information that thinking alone can never provide. You discover direction not by standing still, but by stepping forward and observing what unfolds. Confidence is not something you find by looking inward. It is something you build by engaging with the world. It grows through repeated exposure to challenge, effort, and execution. Every time you act despite uncertainty, you prove to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. That proof slowly replaces doubt with self-trust. Stillness amplifies fear because the mind fills the gap with imagined failure and worst-case scenarios. Movement interrupts those mental loops by shifting focus from speculation to experience. Once you begin, fear loses its ability to dominate because your attention is now on what needs to be done rather than what might go wrong. Clarity emerges when action provides feedback. You learn what works, what doesn't, and what needs adjustment only after you take a step. Information becomes real when it is tested through execution. Without movement, ideas remain theoretical and direction stays blurred. Many people assume confident individuals always feel ready, but readiness is built through repetition, not emotion. The first step is rarely confident, but it becomes easier with each action taken. Confidence is accumulated through doing, not waiting. It is the result of surviving discomfort and realizing it did not destroy you. Movement turns uncertainty into data. Instead of guessing, you experience reality directly. Each action refines your understanding, sharpens your decision-making, and removes confusion. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable once broken down through consistent effort. Hesitation keeps identity small while movement expands it. When you act, you begin to see yourself differently. You no longer identify as someone who hopes, plans, or wishes, but as someone who executes. That shift in identity strengthens confidence at a deeper level than motivation ever could. Clarity also comes from discovering what you do not want. Action eliminates options by testing them. This narrowing of focus is essential for progress, yet impossible without movement. Standing still keeps all possibilities open, which feels safe but creates paralysis. Confidence compounds in the same way habits do. One action reinforces the next, creating momentum that carries you forward. Even imperfect movement builds resilience, teaching you that progress is possible without perfection. The fear of starting fades as consistency takes its place. When you commit to movement, you stop demanding certainty from life and start earning understanding through experience. Clarity and confidence stop being things you chase and become things you generate through action, effort, and forward motion. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment or restriction, but in reality it is one of the highest forms of self-respect. It is the decision to honor your future instead of surrendering to the comfort of the present. Every disciplined action is a signal to yourself that your goals matter more than temporary ease. When you act with discipline, you demonstrate belief in the life you are building. Self-respect is not found in words or affirmations. It is revealed through behavior. The way you treat your time, energy, and commitments shows how seriously you take yourself. Discipline transforms intention into structure, giving your ambitions a framework that can withstand distraction and fatigue. Without discipline, even the strongest desires eventually collapse under inconsistency. Each disciplined choice reinforces trust with yourself. When you do what you said you would do, even when no one is watching, your confidence deepens. That internal trust becomes a source of stability that does not depend on external validation. Discipline teaches you that you can rely on yourself, which is essential for long-term growth. Avoiding discipline may feel like freedom, but it often leads to regret and frustration. True freedom is the result of disciplined habits that create options and control. When you manage your actions instead of letting impulses lead, you gain command over your direction. Discipline creates order, and order creates momentum. Respecting yourself means setting boundaries around what drains you and committing to what develops you. Discipline is the act of protecting your focus from distractions that offer nothing in return. It is choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. Every time you stay consistent, you strengthen your ability to lead yourself. Discipline also removes the need for constant motivation. Motivation rises and falls, but discipline systems carry you forward regardless of how you feel. By committing to action as a standard, not a mood, you reduce internal negotiation. This consistency transforms effort into identity. The process of discipline reshapes how you see challenges. Instead of viewing discomfort as a signal to stop, you see it as confirmation that growth is happening. Discipline trains you to move forward without emotional permission. That resilience becomes a competitive advantage in every area of life. Self-respect grows when your actions align with your values. Discipline bridges the gap between who you are and who you want to become. Each small act of consistency brings those two versions closer together. Over time, discipline becomes less about effort and more about alignment. When discipline is practiced daily, it compounds quietly. The results are not always immediate, but they are inevitable. Progress becomes predictable because your behavior is reliable. Discipline turns effort into a system that works even when enthusiasm fades. Through discipline, you stop outsourcing control of your life to circumstances. You take ownership of your standards and expectations. Self-respect becomes visible through consistent action, and discipline remains the force that keeps you moving forward regardless of resistance. Small actions are often underestimated because they don't create immediate, dramatic change. People overlook them in favor of big moves and quick results, not realizing that real transformation is built quietly over time. A single small action may seem insignificant in isolation, but its true power is revealed through repetition. What feels minor today becomes meaningful when practiced consistently. Consistency gives small actions weight. When something is done daily, it begins to shape behavior, identity, and outcomes. The mind and body adapt to what is repeated, making growth feel natural rather than forced. Over time, consistency removes resistance and replaces it with rhythm and flow. Compounding works whether you are aware of it or not. Every repeated action either builds you up or pulls you backward. The direction of your life is determined not by one defining moment, but by the accumulation of ordinary choices made again and again. Small actions quietly decide big outcomes. Transformation rarely announces itself in the moment. It happens gradually, often unnoticed, until one day the results become undeniable. This is why many people quit too early, mistaking lack of immediate results for lack of progress. Growth is happening beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Small actions reduce overwhelm by breaking large goals into manageable steps. Instead of requiring massive effort, they demand commitment to simplicity. This makes progress sustainable. When pressure is low, follow-through becomes easier and consistency becomes possible. Repeated action also reshapes identity. When you act in alignment with your goals daily, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start identifying as someone who does. That identity shift reinforces behavior. creating a powerful feedback loop. Momentum is built through small wins. Each completed action reinforces confidence and reduces hesitation. Over time, the effort required to continue decreases while the results increase. What once felt difficult becomes automatic through repetition. Compounding rewards patience and persistence, not intensity. Extreme effort followed by burnout produces little lasting change. Small, steady actions create endurance. They allow growth to continue even when motivation is low or circumstances are challenging. The discipline of small actions trains focus. Instead of chasing novelty or instant gratification, attention is directed toward progress. This focus sharpens decision-making and strengthens commitment. Over time, distractions lose their influence. Transformation is not the result of one bold decision, but of thousands of small decisions honored consistently. Each action builds upon the last, shaping habits, outcomes, and character until change becomes permanent and undeniable. Emotions are powerful experiences, but they were never designed to be in charge of your life. They shift constantly, influenced by sleep, environment, mood, and circumstance. When emotions lead, direction changes daily, creating inconsistency and confusion. A life driven by emotion becomes reactive instead of intentional. Most people wait to feel motivated, confident, or inspired before they act, giving emotions authority they do not deserve. This creates delay and inconsistency because emotions are unreliable. What feels exciting today may feel overwhelming tomorrow. When decisions depend on feelings, progress becomes unpredictable. Decision creates structure where emotion creates fluctuation. A clear decision removes the need to constantly check how you feel. It establishes a standard that does not change based on mood. When decision leads, action becomes automatic rather than negotiable. Emotions often exaggerate discomfort and fear. They convince you that effort is more painful than it truly is and that failure is more dangerous than it actually is. Decision cuts through that distortion by focusing on commitment instead of comfort. It allows movement even when emotions resist. High performers do not eliminate emotions, they simply refuse to obey them. They acknowledge fear, doubt, and resistance without allowing those feelings to dictate behavior. Decision becomes the anchor that keeps action steady despite internal noise. When emotions lead, excuses multiply. Fatigue becomes a reason to stop. Doubt becomes a reason to wait. Frustration becomes a reason to quit. Decision removes those escape routes by narrowing focus to what must be done regardless of feeling. Consistency is impossible when emotions are in control. Discipline requires repetition, and repetition requires commitment beyond mood. Decision provides that stability by prioritizing responsibility over comfort. It turns action into a habit instead of a reaction. Emotions are meant to inform, not command. They provide signals, not instructions. Decision interprets those signals without surrendering control. This balance allows growth without emotional suppression and progress without chaos. Each time you act against emotional resistance, decision becomes stronger. Self-trust grows because you prove to yourself that feelings do not control behavior. That trust compounds into confidence built on reliability rather than mood. When decision leads, progress becomes inevitable because action is no longer optional. Emotions lose their power to delay, distract, or derail movement, and consistency takes over as the driving force behind results. Identity is not formed by what you think about yourself. It is formed by what you repeatedly do. Every action you take sends a message to your mind about who you are. When you act consistently, even in small ways, you begin to reshape your self-image. Action becomes the language through which identity is written. Belief does not appear out of nowhere. It is built on evidence, and evidence comes from experience. Each time you take action and survive the discomfort, your mind records proof that you are capable. Over time, that proof replaces self-doubt with self-trust. Many people try to change their identity through affirmations or visualization alone, but without action, those efforts remain fragile. Words without behavior lack credibility. Action grounds belief in reality, making confidence stable instead of emotional. What you do carries more weight than what you say you believe. When you avoid action, your identity quietly weakens. Inaction reinforces the story that you are hesitant, uncertain, or incapable. Even small delays strengthen doubt. Action interrupts that narrative by proving that movement is possible despite fear. Each action you take becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Repetition turns those votes into identity. You do not wake up one day confident or disciplined. You earn those traits through consistent execution. Identity is the accumulated result of past behavior. Belief grows faster when action is taken before certainty. Acting without full confidence teaches you that confidence is not required to function. This realization dissolves the myth that belief must come first. Action shows the mind that it can adapt and succeed in motion. As identity shifts, behavior becomes easier. You no longer force yourself to act because action aligns with who you believe you are. What once required effort becomes natural. This alignment creates momentum that sustains growth. Action also exposes false limitations. Many perceived weaknesses disappear once tested. Through action, you learn that boundaries were imagined rather than real. That discovery strengthens belief far more than external encouragement ever could. Consistency deepens identity more than intensity. One powerful moment does not redefine who you are, but repeated action does. Daily execution trains the mind to see capability as normal. Over time, belief becomes rooted in habit. When action is practiced regularly, identity evolves from potential to proof. Belief no longer depends on hope or motivation, but on lived experience, creating an internal certainty that continues to grow with every step taken.